All right, I think we have everything all set up. Welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I'm going to be working from a photo I just took of a little still life I set up. Glass bottle with some oil in it and just some fake flowers. I'm not sure what type of flowers, but the concept here is just to practice with gouache, see what type of opacity I can get, and working with just depth of field. So with that being said, this video is going to be live streamed, and if at any point I start randomly talking to somebody, it means that somebody came into the live stream to question, comment, things like that. So yeah, that's just a heads up. So in front of me I have a piece of Ranson cold press watercolor paper. It's 9 by 12, but I cut it down to 9 by 11 just so I could paint in this orientation and just easier for me to attach it to the board. And just in case I wind up liking it, I had marked approximate areas on the inside of an 8 by 10 opening mat. So this kind of helps me keep everything in perspective and size. So we're going to be using gouache, which I'm less skilled at. Not to say I'm skilled at all. I'm just saying, this is more just me learning and practicing. But it handles kind of like oil paint in the sense of the opacity there, and it handles like watercolor where it's a water medium and I could thin it out, I could lift and remove things. So it's very versatile and I enjoy it, and I feel like it's a good change of pace. And I'm just putting out some basic colors, black, white, yellow ochre. I'll probably put out a burnt sienna. Well, here's a burnt umber. Let's see, we have our light red oxide. I have a big bag of gouache paints. I'll see if there's anything that I need to add. Let's add some sap green since we have all that green in that flower. So that'll be kind of convenience color right there. And we have red out. We'll put out probably more red in a moment. I'm looking for, you have raw umber, which would be nice for receding. I'll put that on the side for right now. Maybe that'll make its way. And last but not least, I was looking for the burnt sienna, I believe, which is right here. Okay. Though oddly enough, I feel like I've been using less burnt sienna in my paintings, watercolor and oil. And I'm not sure why, because I was such a I was a big proponent of it. I used it so much, and then it just started to fall to the wayside. It's kind of a red. They just call it red. I think I have. Should be the last one. Red rose. That'd be a decent convenience color for the flowers. Quinacridone, red rose. All right. So being that it's water media, I can do a little burnt sienna wash, kind of tone the paper, and then we'll start playing things out. So this is a large hake brush, which I'm just utilizing to quickly get a burnt umber tone on it. And the goal of this is to remove the whites from the paper so that it doesn't create so much of an issue in regards to determining tone when putting things down. Try this guy off, put him on this side. He's not going to really get used at this point. Also, the wetting of the paper will help stretch the paper out. I'm not going to do too much wet and wet. It might be kind of localized, but since I just wet the whole paper, there is a stretch taking place. And if you have earbuds on, watch your ears. I'm going to use the blow dryer just to do a quick dry off. Alright, that should be good enough. Now, I'm going to use a squirrel mop for this. So this is my first time squirrel mopping with gouache. This is Paul Rubens number 6. I got it off of Amazon for about 20 bucks. And I'm going to use it kind of to draw into mass to get an idea of where I want everything to be. So if I put a mat over it, the top line is going to be about here. I want the top of the bottle to be there. I want to have some gap and make it look as if I'm not straining to fit everything into this painting. Let's do the bottom of the bottle here. We'll have top of the front flower. The flower is going to come close to us. Edge of the table. Then we have the flower hanging off right here. And the bottom will be right there. So that's kind of putting everything in line. Top of the flower here. The back of the desk. Ooh, it seems kind of high. Let's lower the back of the desk here. Have a recession take place. So I'm going to use this now to kind of block in the shapes. Which is my approach for still life in oils as well. Kind of using a burnt umber to put my shapes in and see how everything is going to look. Flower here, flower that extends out here, flower that extends here. And then receding forward, we have this flower. So rather than taking a pencil or anything like that and sketching in, I'm just laying out the shapes and seeing how it looks, and then I'll eventually add color. Top is there. Let's widen. That's the kind of the, I guess, the plug, the stopper. That's the word for that. I'm gonna lower this background line here. Table front. Okay. Now, I like to put in backgrounds and get them out the way. So this is the black. Vinci brand, I'm not sure if they have more than one black. I usually seem to go with hot, but yeah, they just say black. I don't know if they have any different ones. So we have black. Let's mix a little bit of yellow ochre in there, get a little bit of a olivish color if possible. I have kind of started to put out a call for ideas on art pages, Facebook pages, and I think I need to post on Wet Canvas a discussion of background color options with still lifes. I came across something very recently, like last night, where I think I was just researching flower still lives, and there wasn't really that much written on the one page that I'd come across. But there was the suggestion that back in the old days, with still lives, with flowers and whatnot, due to the limited color availability in palettes, they would utilize extreme tonal variety in order to get the 3D effect, or to get the beauty of the flowers to take place, you know, coming out of shadow and whatnot. While nowadays we have a lot of synthetic pigments, a lot of more options for painting and whatnot, and you know, a lot of people will utilize those pigments for painting to get those effects, as opposed to black and white. I don't know if that really made much sense, but I think that despite all those, you know, new pigments that are out there, and I'm in my 30s, so it's not like an adhesion to the old ways or something like that. I just prefer this, you know, darker approach, a more old master type approach. Even though I'm not saying my skill level is on par with old masters or anything like that, it's just that that's where I'd like to be. So now, the underhang of this table is going to be the same concept of darkness with this black back here. They're both a vertical plane. So I'm going to try to keep that concept in mind. I've also noticed that even though I'm able to get 3D effects, I think that I may have, and this is going to sound weird, like self-diagnosing or anything like that, I think I may have a slight issue with spatial awareness and 3D effects, because whenever I write things in a line going down vertically, if I was to write in this fashion, I start trailing, and if I did 1, 2, 3, 4, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm aware of it. I notice it, I see it, and I notice that I have left to right vertical issues, etc. And I had once come across a little article when because I tutored a kid in math, and he had this weird thing where the margin lines right here, and he'd want to squeeze in the word and then have the definition next to it. So I was tutoring him in multiple different things, and I had looked it up to see if it was some sort of like an issue getting kids not to write their definitions in those margins, and I wound up coming across that spatial awareness issue. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. Let me see how we're looking on the screen. Yeah, we're looking good. We're looking good. Okay, now the table. Let's grab some yellow ochre for that. There's a little bit of raw sienna, burnt sienna in there. Yeah. So anyway, the whole rambling about spatial awareness and all that, that's something that I need to constantly watch for myself. And at the end of the day, that's what you all need to be aware of art-wise. You need to think, what issues do I have? Do constructive criticism, accept constructive criticism, and see what you can do to correct it or keep it in your mind. For example, when I was mapping out the locations, I feel like recently I've been pushing a little too close to the edge, which gives the illusion or the viewer the idea that I didn't quite have a big enough canvas. So by slightly minimizing and having more negative space, I start correcting that visual issue. Another thing, this is not to be like a video about negatives and whatnot, I had done an oil still life on a 5x7, and it's kind of in the works, and it's just, you know, small vase and you know, big flower and another big flower up above that. And I made the vase even smaller than it was in actuality. And my mother had said, you know, that's that must be a really strong vase for it to hold that up like that. And you know, like, so keeping the weight of objects and the strength of objects within a painting is important with relationship to each other. So I need to be aware of that. So kind of putting everything in place, seeing where everything's going to sit. Getting that edge, that curve right there. Let's see how that dry brush affects that movement. We could even darken up this background. And right now we've used colors that should be common for everybody. Our yellow ochre, black, burnt sienna, burnt umber, I'm gonna let the light come down. I'll make a decision on that in a bit. Trying to gradiate a little bit of gradation with the tonal value and color to get it to come closer. we're going to wind up putting highlights here with reflections. Okay. So now that everything's kind of in place, start seeing a little bit of issues with the shape of this. So there'll be a push back and forth to create the correct shape. But let's do a dry off, and then we'll start putting in dark values into our vase. Let me do a little bit of stretching. Get that to happen. There we go. Now I'm going to look into the glass itself and pick out tonal values. I'm going to work from dark to light for this one, so that's going to be my kind of experiment for this, to see what approach works for me. And I don't think I would need to switch brushes. All I would really need is this guy, the number 6. Just reshaping that point. And this should dry lighter than it's going down, so it should blend in with that background. This is more of an umber on the inside. It's kind of circumventing that flower that's going to be in front. So burnt umber with a little bit of black in it. There's going to be a highlight right in that area. Got some yellow ochre, so this will be the oil. They mix a little bit of titanium white in there, light it up a little bit. This is one area that I have a weakness, mixing the titanium white into any other color, because of the potential chalky effect that it gets. And the handling of that is something that I need to work on. So know your weaknesses, but challenge yourself to approach them. There's a highlight right here. A little too white direction with this, so let me get it a little bit more yellow, oily. Let me move up into the stem of this vase. Here's the ultramarine. Mix a little ochre in it. This is going to be a highlight right here, so I'm just going to put that in place so I can start establishing that. Now, a little bit of sap green. It catches the stem. Let's grab black. I want to really darken up this background now around it. Everything feels kind of flat. Okay, so I'm darkening the background here with the black, but I'm thinking I'm going to leave this other side light for a moment just so we can do a dry off and observe the drying shift so I could see what I need to do to handle that. So I think y'all were able to visually see the drying shift that took place right there. However, we do have the background darker at this point. So I think it's going to be a matter of going back and forth between those two. Darkening, you know. So I'm just using here's more straight from the tube with a little bit of water just to get the brush moving. And we'll see how that affects it. So a big part of art is just knowing the medium that you're working with and learning about it. And here with this Da Vinci black, for me at least, I'm not applying it in such a way that it's remaining black, or the drying shift is so severe that I'm having a hard time with that. That's probably Hammy or Haynes. And whenever you get to a point where you're like, okay, let me move to another spot, feel free. And that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm thinking I'm now going to start. I like to move around a painting, and now it's probably the time for me to start moving to another location just to let my mind relax for a bit and take a different approach. So flower wise, they're going to get bigger, and here we're going to have a big one, and we have one hanging off the table right here. And we're going to have that extreme darkness around that one, and that's going to help hopefully make that one pop. We're going to have flowers here. We're going to have a stem come out and have a lone flower right there. Let's see what would work color-wise. I think this is the red rose. Mute it down a little bit with burnt umber. Mix some titanium white. This is kind of just dabbing in right now. Not too much rhyme or reason taking place, more just following this path out and forward. And I figure we could get more serious with these guys in a bit. I feel maybe the looseness of the brush strokes will help give the illusion of flowers. So it's not so much a meticulous painting. It is loosely placing values of light and dark in there. Let's grab some sap green, because there are quite a few leaves amongst the flowers. So we're still using the same brush for everything. We're gonna have to probably mix yellow ochre into it. Yeah, so that's probably the two different varieties we can use, is the sap green and the then yellow ochre mixed into that. You can mix titanium white. And then we're going to get really loose with the stamens flying all over the place in a bit. But I think what needs to be addressed is the table now. We need to spend a little more time on that. The table's very flat. Obviously it's a table. But I want to get more of a gradient within it. So burnt sienna. Burnt umber, sorry. Let's get burnt sienna right here. Even a little bit of blue will be down in this region. This is the yellow ochre. Then it mutes back. So like I said in the beginning, I'm live streaming this, so if I randomly talk to people, that's somebody coming in. We have somebody, Dupla, in the live chat. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm not proficient with gouache, which is opaque watercolor, but it's to practice achieving a 3D effect, and also compositional practice, where the main goal is we're going to have the highlights here, and eye's going to travel up into this space. This is just a oil jar that we have for, oil, for cooking oil and all that, and then a fake set of flowers that I had put down, and then I photographed. Then I posted on Facebook saying, "Don't tell the fiance," and I tagged her in it, so yeah, just trying to get her riled up while she's busy at work, and stress her out. So with gouache, we have the drying shift, so I'm constantly building up this dark back here, and yeah, it'll be a one and done painting, so we're going to be kind of going back and forth, building things up, and I think I'll probably dedicate like an hour and a half to this painting. I gotta see what time it is. 1:30, yeah. So I got plenty of time for this one. The glass has some issues with it, so we're going to be building that up as well. Oh, thank you for the compliment. I'm actually going to grab a thin brush. See if I have a thin enough brush for it. And I'm going to put out some titanium white. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I work in watercolor, oil, and gouache, and then pen and ink for sketching. Acrylic, I've never been very good at. Here's titanium white, just so I could show you with the highlights what the whole plan is and how the eye movement's going to take place. I know that acrylic is water-based, but I am just absolutely terrible at acrylic. I could never get the hang of it, even though I use watercolor and gouache, which is, water-based. So that I am amazed by anybody that could handle gouache. Handle acrylic. Let me do a quick dry off if y'all don't mind, just because it's a little wet right there. If you have earbuds on, just watch your ears real quick. Yeah. Watercolor gouache, they blend together pretty well. My watercolors will tend towards mud and towards darks. However, that's what I prefer. I like the moody darkness, but gouache seems to be able to blend pretty well without being too muddy. This is kind of show the whole visual movement of light across this, so it's going to be utilizing the highlights of the stamen. So the goal is to start the eye down here, going from left to right. In fact, we might even have to do a little bit of highlights right here along this edge. Come back. Come up, eyes. Observe this area. Recede back. Have variety from left to right in concentration. Make sure it doesn't turn into a smiley face like that one just did. And then we'll come here. And the highlight on the glass isn't super strong, so I'm gonna try to accentuate that. And I'm gonna have to go back in and darken and lighten and whatnot. And then the eye travels up this path. pretty much set this glass oil decanter, whatever you call it, on a writing desk that's like right behind me, and took a photo, and then I put it back, so if the fiance says anything, yeah, I put it back. But where was I? Yeah, so I put that in, but I didn't really concentrate any lighting. I just turned off the other lights and just had the overhead light be utilized. Sometimes I have a cardboard box that I cut, and I'll put a still life on the inside of it, and I cut the side where I could hold a flashlight and awkwardly photograph while the light shines in. This is that sap green titanium mix, which unfortunately I'm not getting the variation pop yet that I want. And what might have to happen, what I mentioned at the beginning. Oh, well, I have a lot to learn too. This is maybe, actually, if you don't mind me showing off, do you mind me showing off for a second? This is an oil still life that I'm working on. And I would like to eventually be able to achieve something near this with the gouache itself. So that's kind of the goals of this. And like, and it's not to be like, ooh la la, look at this, even though it's like, ooh la la, look at this. The whole thing is like to show that it's possible. Like my degrees, and I'm going to talk about myself. I haven't talked about myself in a while. It might have been a day or two. My degrees are in math and physics. I teach high school math and physics. And while I was getting my degrees, I took art classes at the college on the side. And I'm certified to teach art. And I did oils, and we did the drawing, we did photography in college and whatnot. And I'll be honest, I know in hindsight I really wasn't that good. And I remember once saying to the professor, the art teacher, that I wish I could just do art for a living. I wish I could do this. And he was like, oh, no, you want to do the math and physics, you get a good job, make good money. But I think he was also like silently hinting at like, yeah, you're not the best, you don't have the best skills for this. Which he didn't say, and which I kind of thought, and I wasn't offended by it. I kind of, knew where I was at, and I knew where other people were at. And this was back in 2007. Then I moved down. I'm in Louisiana. That's where I live now. And I continued to take art classes while I was doing my teaching certifications. And it was fun. And then I kind of lost my muse for painting. So I had lost my muse for painting for almost 8 years, let's say, or art in general. And I teach math and physics, and my inclusion teacher, because I have special ed students that are in my classroom, and her job is to focus and help those special ed students, and then reiterate later on in the day. Me and her are good friends, and she was talking about watercolor pencils. And then suddenly that revived art for me. and I spent a year doing Chinese flower painting, and then I migrated to watercolor. So about 2 years ago I migrated to Western watercolor, and I taught myself how to do that. Then about a year ago I was like, screw it, let me add oils back into the mix, and I was doing fast and loose oil landscapes. And then with COVID, I think I might have had gouache before that, but not really used it. But then with COVID happening and whatnot, I had all this free time, and I started doing painting I was painting every day, but I started doing a video every day, and different experiments, learning different media, practicing portrait drawings. Everything's just been coming back in full force and a million times better than where I was at. So that's my ramble about myself. And if you feel, if you ever feel like your confidence is lowered, like don't let that get to you. Everybody's always learning. Everybody's always improving. I'm just taking darks and using almost calligraphy type strokes to attempt to force the leaves to have a change of depth and all that, and create themselves. So with gouache and watercolor, there's a shift that takes place, a drying shift. And what's happening is that there's water, surprise, within it. And if you think about wet cement or wet blacktop, with wet cement, wet blacktop, it looks darker, and that's because of the light passing through the water and refracting and all that. And that's what's happening here. We have a mixture of pigment and water, and that's causing it to look darker, and once it dries it looks lighter. So that's the big thing you want to pay attention to. I don't think the same thing happens with acrylic though, because of the density of acrylic. I'm not sure. I really don't use acrylic. But yeah, let things create themselves. Do textural marks. There's two approaches, or a few different approaches, and I don't think either of them is right or wrong. It's what you prefer. Where we could sit here, and I use the word meticulous because in Chinese painting they have a type of style called gongbi, where it's meticulous, and they sit there and they paint very intricate, detailed flowers. And then there's ZU, I think is the pronunciation, which is kind of fast and loose, and you let the illusion take hold. Painters, modern painters, if you look at Dennis Sheehan and Stuart Davies, they're very much about the illusion of detail, letting the marks, fast and loose marks, letting brush strokes come together and let the viewer read it as a tree, as grass. For example, if I was oil painting right now, I could take a stiff brush and dig into it, and all these fibers going in different directions would create the illusion of grass or movement, rather than sitting there and going pop, 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 pop. And I think if you're on Instagram, Dupla, if you're on Instagram, you could check out my work. I'm not sure if I have it linked, but it's Andrew Broussard Watercolors. I have like the name and the about me. And if you have Instagram, you're welcome to share a link to your Instagram within the chat. So anybody out there that wants to take a look at your artwork can see it. Now, I'm going to try to get a more oily color. It's a little, okay, so we got the reflection here. Get greener. And, you know, of course, never be afraid to just make space. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff on the YouTube channel. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Some is, I think it's pretty helpful. And I always kind of throw it out there. If you ever want me to like address a topic or do an experiment, I'm more than willing to do that. Like I said, being a school teacher, I think I just enjoy the teaching aspect and exploring aspect of painting. Unfortunately, missing some dark shadows in this area. So that's what's happening right now. Yeah, so I like the teaching and the experimenting and all that. So if there's ever anything you want me to try out, let me know. Monday we go back to work, but it's just teachers for 8 days to prep the school for COVID and all that. And then we have kids coming on alternating days. So it's like, I don't know how it's going to look and how it's going to work. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of watercolor techniques carry over to acrylic. I never really established a direction of lighting with this painting. So all I'm doing is pretty much just darkening the underside of this. It's a writing desk that I took the photo on. My friend's mother, who's like 80, moved in with his sister and brother-in-law. So I had acquired her writing desk that she had at her house. I already have a writing desk top, but I'm just slowly, adding vintage type stuff to my art room, my man cave. I don't write, well, if I write, it might just be like ramblings. In a lot of these videos, there's really no preparation for them. It's more like, oh, let me go take a quick photo real quick, or let me experiment with 2 colors today, or do something like that. So I think on the YouTube page, a lot of the stuff is categorized as experimental or things like that. Anyway, let me do a dry off real quick so we can see where we're at with it. So I talked about drying shift, so definitely pay attention to that. Okay, so if you have earbuds, watch your ears. So let's see. Do I have a yellow? I have yellow ochre. We're going to work our way back through it. There probably won't be too much of a variation that takes place, but the idea here, the effort here is to, just to build up an opacity and a vibrance. This is a mixture of the tube called red, titanium white, and the red rose. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a nice mix. I hope that will really pop out for us when it dries. Now I'm just doing gestural marks. Probably even lighten it up even more. And almost do kind of a highlight effect. But talking about these gestural marks, if I was painting trees and doing branches and whatnot, if I went back over, I wouldn't really overlap. I would do them alongside or create another one, and the purpose of that is for me to create a density. So here I'm trying not to hit the exact marks that are already there. It creates a density of marks and a variety, and once again just leads towards that illusion. I have to be careful with the intensity of this so that it doesn't push that part forward while that one pushes back. So I need this guy to be super duper intense. In fact, I grab more titanium. And let's see what I can do to get it. So you could do color and tonal variety to get things to pop out. You could also do texture to get things to pop forward. This is more intricate in front, so hopefully the eye is drawn more to it. Can't really see how well it looks on my screen on the side because that's about a 3x5 screen. We could even, I got distracted. I was talking about a yellow. Yellow light. What we'll do is we'll take this yellow and I'll use a smidgen of that because that's a word, I think. And I'll drop it right in there, and that'll give that a little bit more pop as well. In fact, this is probably what I've been using, should have been using for the oil color. Probably the first time I ever opened this tube. Oh, we never did the reflection on the of the bottle onto the table. This will be kind of fun. Let's see. We're coming right here. We're gonna reflect a little bit of yellow after I wash this brush off. Use a little bit of that yellow. Let's get more. So it's reflecting down here for the yellow. Hopefully that's showing up. And then we're going to get a light blue, ultramarine, mixed with titanium white. And I'll dry brush that right there. And that will create a shininess, hopefully, on it. Might be a little too strong. Let me shape up this side. Make sure we get a nice horizontal line there. And I'm going to put this either on YouTube or Patreon. If anybody ever follows along with these, you're more than welcome to. I would love to see your results. With anything that I paint, you are more than welcome to sign it and sell it. Like if somebody's like, hey, that's awesome, I would love to buy it. Feel free, because I want you guys to prosper and have money for art supplies. If you would like to consider supporting me on Patreon, I have 2 super cheap tiers, like a $2 and a $5. That money goes towards art supplies and lighting and all that different fun stuff. So I'm kind of saying all that now mainly because I hear a thunderstorm in the distance. Down here in Louisiana, especially this time of year, we get thunderstorms every day. And a few weeks ago I was live streaming and then the power went out, and that just totally ruined the whole flow of everything. So at this point I'm going around tickling things. I'm looking for areas that I can kind of put my darks in. I'm one of those people that abuse black paint for shadows and darks. Other things you can do if you're not a fan of using the darks for that, you can mix complementary colors. I don't have it on this palette. I have the paints, but I don't have them out. Phthalo green and quinacridone rose make a really great dark mixed together. I use that color combination in my watercolors. And the common gray is ultramarine and, you know, burnt sienna. Oh, let's get even more of a pop here. I have been tempted to switch my white. Oh, we got Equal Mage in the live chat. How you doing? How you been? To a more opaque white. One brand that I had saw was Holben, but the price is pretty far out there for me to justify. There's a farmer's market tomorrow. I'm tempted to go. I usually go and set up and sell, or at least try to sell paintings. Do a little rose or flower reflection in the glass. Where did I put that brush? There we go. turned my titanium white into a pile of pink. Catch a little bit more of the glass and the contours of it. Let me stand up for a moment and take a look, step back. Oh. Oh. Let's get some more highlighted leaves going. I think a hair made its way. Yep, one of the brush hairs. All right. The reflection of this yellow is so strong on this in this photograph. I think we are at the point where it's not quite done, but I'm going to get ready to wrap this video up. Mainly because I have some other stuff I need to do today. I hope you all enjoyed, and like I said earlier, if you ever follow along, I want to see the results. I'm excited. As always, please like, subscribe, follow, and hopefully I'll be back soon with more painting videos. If anybody has any suggestions on anything, I'd love to hear those as well. Alright, so we'll do a dry off, and we'll put a little mat over it to see what it looks like. Let me put brushes on the side. dry. I have an 8x10 opening to put over this. Oh, that's pretty. I always like this mat. It's like kind of a dark blue. Let's see how well the lighting shows. Let me go find a pen to sign this with. There you go. Got a pen. Let's get it so it's nice and straight. We'll sign down here. And there you go. That's the results. All right. Thank you for watching and following along. And hopefully I will see you all soon. Have a great day. Bye.